When I first started my playthroughs of Resident Evil so I could catch up to Requiem, I was looking forward to all of them, but the one that I was looking forward to the most was Resident Evil 7. I still remember in 2017, there were so many videos of people playing through these games and clips of this game going viral of just the craziest shit happening, and I just was thinking to myself, there's no way I would ever play this game. It looks way too scary. And now here I am, having finished the game. And my god, is this game scary. But also, wow, this game is freaking amazing. Like, it's so different from the previous REs I've played, but it's so fun and scary. And I love it, you know? So I'm here to talk about it. Tell you guys my thoughts, tell you guys what I liked and what I disliked. And I hope that in the comments, you guys will let me know what you liked, what you disliked about the game, and how your experience with this game went, because I would genuinely love to know. And without further ado, it's time for me to start talking about what I think is the scariest Resident Evil game they've ever made. Now, usually, I like starting my discussions by talking about what I liked, and then ending the video with what I disliked. But this time around, I honestly just want to talk about what I disliked because for me personally, there wasn't a lot to dislike about this game. There was one dislike I had that I will share, obviously, but everything else felt like minor nitpicks that didn't really destroy the game for me. You know what I mean? And the first one is enemy variety was really poor. Now, I'm sure they had their reasons for it, and usually this would be a bigger deal to me, but I think so much of the rest of the game comes together so well that this part didn't feel as bad. But what I mean is, in every other Resident Evil game, there are a large variety of enemies to fight, and that constantly keep you on your toes. That even as you're progressing through the game and getting better weaponry and feeling more comfortable, the game throws this curveball at you that you have to learn on the fly that just ruins your feng shui that you got while playing through the game up until this point. With Resident Evil 7, there's primarily only one enemy type, but multiple variants of it that don't really change enough to make me feel like they're considered different enemies, if that makes sense. Now, the main enemies you fight are the molded, and there are a couple of variants, I believe four. Correct me if I'm wrong. There is the regular one that just kind of shambles towards you and does slow hitting attacks that, are easily dodgeable. There is the ones with one arm that is bladed. They're a bit more dangerous and a bit more tanky, but they fight the same way. There are the crawling variants. These ones have a smaller hitbox, move fast, and are technically harder to hit, but realistically, if you're using the enhanced handgun ammo, they take one shot to the head and they're pretty much dead every time, and it really isn't that hard to hit the head either. And the last one is the fat ones. These ones are very tanky. They usually only show up in boss battle scenarios or mini boss scenarios. They do projectile vomiting attacks. And while I do say that they are the hardest versions, I still think that they're very easy. They're very easy to kite around. They're very easy to kill. And all of these things play the exact same way. You just shoot them in the head a couple times and they're dead. The only other different enemy type is the mosquitoes in Margaret section, and quite frankly, the mosquitoes in Margaret section are just annoying rather than they are difficult. They fly around a lot, they do constant damage to you if you don't take them on with the flamethrower, and even when you're doing the flamethrower, using the flamethrower on them, it still feels annoying because they still hurt you a bunch. I don't know if I just went about it the wrong way, but I absolutely hated Margaret's first section because of the mosquitoes and flies. It was really bad. But yeah, enemy variety was really poor in this game for sure. One other thing, again, a nitpick, having to move the weapons you want to use to the directional inputs if you want to use them, and that being the only way to use them, was definitely a little annoying. In previous Resident Evil games, you could always add weapons to a directional input so that it could be easier to access in the middle of a fight. But you could always bring more weapons than the four directional inputs. And so that just made it so that if you ran out of weapons or ammo or decided that, hey, this weapon might be suited better for this situation, you could still use it without having to switch it over to the directional input. In this game, if you want to use weapons, they have to be slotted on the directional inputs. Otherwise, if you want to bring a fifth weapon and decide that you need to use it in a certain scenario, you're gonna have to open the item menu, which doesn't pause the game, and then you're gonna have to just drag it over to the directional input in the middle of a fight. Maybe people like this, maybe it adds more tension, but to me, it was just more annoying, and I wish they allowed us to use it without adding it to the directional input. It'd still be a split-second situation. It'd still be kind of tense. I realize it wouldn't be as tense, but I only really noticed this at the very end when I had an abundance of ammo and abundance of weapons with me. But otherwise, this wasn't a big deal. The last thing I actually didn't like about this game, and I think is a major complaint, is the final boss battle with Evelyn. It was really underwhelming. The boss battle just consists of you at first walking towards her very slowly, but also guarding at the right time so that you don't get knocked back and lose some progress. And then once you reach her, you inject her with a serum. She turns into this big blob monster, and then you just pretty much shoot her a bunch in vain because it isn't doing anything. She knocks you out of the house, and then Chris Redfield comes out of nowhere, drops you a gun with special rounds, and then you just shoot her once and she dies. It's genuinely really underwhelming considering how much she plays a part in this game, how important she is to the game, and all of it to culminate in what is in my opinion, the weakest boss fight of the game. But regardless, all these dislikes really do pale in comparison to the bundle you're getting that is Resident Evil 7. So now I just want to talk about what I like. First of all, they did a drastic change in this game, which is switching to first person. In my opinion, first person was such an amazing change to this game. It just made everything feel more claustrophobic, especially because this whole game is set technically in a house, almost similar to the way it is in Resident Evil 1, where you're primarily playing in this section that's divided into little subsections. There's the house, there's the swamp, and then there's Lucas's party area, and then there's also the mines underneath. But what I'm trying to say is, everything feels more dangerous. It feels like it's not just coming at the character you're controlling, it feels like it's coming at you. Whether that be the molded, or the bosses, or in this case, the Baker family. Everything feels just like you as the player are in danger, not just the character. A way I cope with these scary games sometimes is to tell myself, hey, calm down, you're not the one in danger. The character is, you just gotta make sure they live. But in this game, I genuinely would try to tell myself that, but in moments where you were literally hearing noises behind you, but you don't, or to the right and left of you, and in any other Resident Evil game, you'd be able to see that from your peripherals. In this game, you have to turn because you have such little field of view. It's genuinely terrifying. Every single noise, every single encounter with every single enemy feels just that much worse. Something else I loved in this game is the scare factor. I think they went above and beyond. The environments themselves are immaculately done for what is a terrifying game. You have mold everywhere. The house and areas you're walking through are just decrepit and run down, and there's just it just looks so unsanitary. It's unsettling. And then you have the dark lighting to add to it, and then you have the loud sound effects. The sound effects in this game are so well done. Even the sound effect of you just walking into a piece of furniture and knocking it over is so unnecessarily loud, but in the best possible way, that if you're playing this game on with a loud volume, which I think you should, loud volume and headphones make this game so much better. But if you are doing that, then everything just feels so much more terrifying. Like, you would jump at everything. To put it into perspective, I was starting this game and I got up to the point where you kill Jack Baker, but then I had to take a decent break. So when I came back to the game, I kind of forgot some stuff from controls to story and all that. So I decided, hey, I didn't make it that far into the game as far as I remember, so I should just replay it. And even though this was something that I already replayed, so I thought to myself, this won't be so bad. I've already seen all this. I still managed to get scared because of the sound effects of this game. They were so well done. I love it so much. And also just the tension. This part I'm going to mention is only really for Jack Baker, but the tension from being chased by Jack Baker when you hear his big footsteps behind you, and mind you, he's never running. He sometimes does a fast walk, but that's about it. But just hearing him in the background as you're running away from him, Oh my god, it's so good. Because again, especially when you're facing Jack Baker, you're in these very claustrophobic hallways. You can't really just maneuver around him. You have to go like you either have to go all the way around him or just like somehow find a way to get through him. And oh my god, it's so good. I absolutely love the scare factor in this game. It is great. Speaking of locations, because I was just talking about the house, I think every location in this game was really fun to explore. They all felt very labyrinthian. There would be doors that you couldn't open until you brought a certain key that you'd find way later in the game and bring it back to unlock a very meaningful reward that you backtracked for. And each of these levels has puzzles to it that are actually fun and reminiscent of older games. Like for example, the shotgun. To get the shotgun in this game, I think there's a way where you can repair a broken shotgun and get it, but I honestly smiled so much when I saw this, but you pretty much have a shotgun in a room where if you take it that statue was holding, and if you take the shotgun from the statue, the door, a metal door, pretty much closes behind you, and you can't get out until you give the shotgun back to the statue. So in essence, what you're supposed to do is find a replacement shotgun and then bring it over to this dude, give him the broken shotgun, and take the real shotgun. And it's like, oh, it's an RE1 reference, and I absolutely loved it. The story of this game, not the story about Evelyn and Mia and all that. I honestly found the story between Evelyn and Mia and all that stuff very generic of Resident Evil, bad guy company doing bad guy stuff, doing stuff with biological weapons and create something awful, blah 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 blah. I heard it all before. It's not like it was a surprise here, but the story of the Baker family and interacting with them was great. That's the part I really loved. So when you first enter their house, you don't know who these people are. You see a glimpse of Jack Baker as you're approaching the house, but he walks off the screen very quickly, and you don't see him again for a little while. When you first enter the house, you obviously see the house is rotting away. It's decrepit, it's disgusting. There's mold in the fridge and the pot. I don't even know what was in the pot, but it was disgusting. And you see newspapers saying 20 people missing in Louisiana. And obviously you as the player know that you're probably in the same location these people are going missing. And as you're going through this area, you're just seeing more and more creepy stuff. You're seeing these videotapes of an old scary movie crew that investigate haunted places, investigating the same area you're in, and you use this videotape to progress forward, which is also something else I really love about this game. They lean so heavily into that videotape recorder aesthetic. You see this crew, and you pretty much find out that there's a secret passageway, but when they go down the secret passageway, they're met with this shadowy figure that, cuts off the camera and definitely doesn't look like he's about to give him a hug. You know what I mean? So you're just worried and worried and worried about what's about to happen to you because you have to go down there as well. And as you're exploring through this area, this underground weird area, you find dead bodies. You find these pictures of all these people that, probably are the missing people that you just read about on the newspaper. And then it all culminates into this moment where you fight Mia, and then Jack Baker ambushes you, and you finally get to see the person that you saw earlier, and he is not giving you a hug, let's say that much. And then you're finally introduced to all of them at what I think is the most infamous scene of Resident Evil 7, the dinner table scene. And I think what makes this scene so interesting is that I think one of the scariest things you could do is throw characters in a very uncomfortable and or very not normal situation, but have them act like everything is fine, like nothing is wrong, like it's all good and fine, and everything is normal. That is the weirdest and most uncomfortable thing you could do, and they do it perfectly here. The three of them look like they're having a very regular family meal, right? And you're just sitting there looking at the table, and you're just thinking, what in the heck is this? First of all, you have a man-child in the in the left, who's Lucas, who's just throwing food at you. You have Margaret, who's just trying to act like a sweet mother, even though she's cutting into God knows what the hell she's cutting into. And then you have Jack, who casually cuts off his own son's arm, and the son doesn't even look like he's fazed by it. And then he proceeds to feed you whatever the thing is. And it just from this point on, as you interact with his family, you just feel so like disturbed by them. Because throughout the game you're interacting with different people in the family. So first it's Jack, then it's Margaret, and then finally it's Lucas. In Jack's level, it's very you're pretty much in the first area of the game, the house, and it's very claustrophobic environments, which leads to a really cool boss battle where you're pretty much fighting him with a chainsaw. It's so fun. I loved it. And then you have Margaret's fight, which again, I didn't like Margaret's area because it was just a bunch of, weird mosquito stuff, and I hated it, but her boss fight was also very cool. You just don't expect Margaret to be someone terrifying because I don't know, she's old, she's skinny, she doesn't seem like she knows how to fight, but then she turns into this exorcist level long limbed monster, and then you pretty much she's stalking you in this small house, pulling you from on top of you, and if you find her, you just see her head popped out through a hole, and it's like, what in the frick? And she has hives on her private parts. It's so disturbing. And then Lucas isn't actually a monster. In fact, I think Lucas in a weird way is one of the most interesting characters because throughout the game you can hear that he is actually the problem child of the family, and this was before they got infected with Evelyn's quote unquote gift. In fact, in Lucas's room, you can see that he did some really messed up stuff. Like he locked a kid in a cellar, I think, and then left him there, and then the kid ended up dying and rotting in the cellar, which is just holy crap, that is disturbing. It makes you wonder if Lucas, even if he didn't receive Evelyn's gift, is would he still have ended up the same way? You know what I mean? Like obviously not with the regenerative properties of healing and whatnot, but like would he still have ended up as like a serial killer pretty much, making these just like disturbing puzzles that are impossible to win for anyone? And in fact, Lucas's part is my favorite because of the puzzles I just mentioned. I think this game does a very good job at bringing focus back into puzzles, which is what Resident Evil 1 did so well, making very unique puzzles for you to solve that are, that require you to think and aren't just fetch quests. There are fetch quest puzzles in this game, but there are also very good puzzles in this game as well. So example, the happy birthday puzzle. Pretty much the essence of this is an escape room where you're going to die no matter what because of how you solve it. There's a videotape that shows you a person entering this puzzle and solving it, and at the end of it, they burn. But through the knowledge of what you see in this videotape, you as Ethan, when you enter this puzzle, are supposed to use what you know, not make the same mistakes as the person in the video, and then escape it and one up Lucas. And after that, Lucas just disappears. But this puzzle is so well designed and so has so many different layers to it that it genuinely felt so fun to solve. Usually if a puzzle's taking me a while, I feel like I just want to search it up and get it over with, but for this one, for some reason, I was so determined to just keep pushing myself through it and just finding out the different answers myself, and when I did, it felt so satisfying. It wasn't very satisfying to see the character die in the end after everything I did, but like it was still just fun to figure it out myself, and it was definitely my favorite puzzle in the entire Resident Evil series in general. And I hope going forward, when I play Resident Evil 8, there will be puzzles like this, and I hope in Resident Evil 9 Requiem there will also be puzzles like this, because my god, puzzles are something that, in my opinion, is very important to these games, and any scary game in general, to be honest. But I think the main story, what I was trying to say, because I feel like I just went on a long tangent, but the story of the Baker family is so depressing because you find these notes around the house that kind of just show that they were a normal family, and it all culminates into this moment where near the very end of the game, Ethan has I don't know what it is, but he kind of gets this vision of Jack Baker, who is pretty much his normal self before he got turned, and he's pretty much talking to you and just explaining to you that, like he's talking to you like a normal person. You're just like, these people who I've been afraid of the entire time are just a regular family that just had something very, very bad happen to them. And he asks you to save his family. And we ended up, well, we didn't end up saving his family, unfortunately. Every one of his family dies except Zoe. But that's another story on its own that I will just mention real quick later. But it honestly, the story of the Baker family gets more fleshed out in the DLC, The Daughters, where you get to see how they actually were. They were people that like looked out for other strangers, like as if they were their own family. They found Mia and Evelyn on a stranded beach or something, and they took them into their home willingly and fed them and clothed them, and all of it was just led to their downfall. And it's just like, wow, man, that's so depressing, man. Oh, it was so sad. I didn't play it. I watched it because I'm not paying money for that DLC. Hell no. But like, it was such a sad reveal. To put it simply. But the last thing I want to mention is the last person in the Baker family is Zoe. And Zoe is like the only one that isn't turned throughout the game. She's pretty much helping you along so that you could get out pretty much along with Mia and herself. And pretty much the point of the game is you're trying to make this serum to save Mia and Zoe, but right before you can inject both of them with the serum, you get attacked by a mutant Jack Baker, and you fight him off, and then by the end of it, you have to use a serum on him, and that pretty much leaves you with one serum, so you have to make a choice between your wife, who you've came here for, the whole reason you've come here, who you haven't seen in 3 years, or this girl that you just met, and honestly only just met face to face a few seconds ago. I think the answer was obvious for everyone. You're picking Mia. I don't even know why this was a choice. It was so weird. But and I thought this was weird at first too. Don't get me wrong. I was so weirded out by this decision because I was just like, who would ever in their right mind pick Zoe over Mia in this situation? That's so weird. I still don't even know what happens if you pick Zoe, but her story gets resolved in the DLC, which is she has an uncle that is like a heavyweight boxer or whatever the hell he is. He's just punching through all the molded, and she gets him the serum, or he gets her the serum, and then saves Zoe, and then she has a happy ending pretty much, and I love that. But this game, all in all, is what I'm trying to say is it's great. It's definitely not my favorite Resident Evil game. I think Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 2 were more fun for me, but I think Resident Evil 7 is a close third. I think Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 7 are very close together, but it's definitely my third favorite game for sure. And if I had to give it a score, I'd probably give it like I'd probably give it like an 8.5 out of 10. It was a very solid game, and I would recommend it to people. And the best thing about this game is I feel like you could play this game without even knowing anything about the past ones, you know? Like, obviously, you wouldn't know who Chris Redfield is, but, like, he only shows up for, like, the last, like, minute of the game, so it's like, who cares? You could have this is just a great survival horror game in general, like, without knowing anything. Obviously, if you do know stuff about the Resident Evil series, you can find some interesting stuff, like about them talking about Raccoon City, and then Melissa Ashcroft, because obviously I haven't played whatever her game she's in, but I know that Grace Ashcroft in Resident Evil 9 is supposed to be her daughter, and so that was a cool thing to see. But yeah, this game was phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. I'm so glad I loved it too, because I was looking forward to this game from the beginning, and it absolutely lived up to the hype. It definitely had me terrified. And yeah, now I'm on to the last one in the series before I'm caught up with Resident Evil as a series, which is Resident Evil Village. I don't know how that's gonna go. I honestly only know one thing about that game, and it's Lady Dimitrescu, and I'm not gonna pretend like you don't know why that's the reason. Everyone knows who she is, even if you haven't played the game. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that one, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, let me know what your experience was with Resident Evil 7, because I would genuinely love to know. What did you like about the game? What did you not like about the game? Was it as scary as people were making it out to be, or what? But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace out.